Hello, everyone, and welcome to English Exchange Podcast. I'm really glad you've joined me because we're going to spend some quality time together talking about something that might sound very simple, but is actually one of the most important foundations for both life and language learning: our daily routines. Now, you might be thinking, why should I spend so much time listening to someone talk about brushing their teeth, drinking coffee, or going to work? And that's a fair question. But the truth is, our daily routines are more than just a list of tasks. They are the small building blocks that shape who we are, how we feel, and how we connect with the world. And when it comes to learning English or any language, being able to describe your daily routine is one of the most practical, useful, and natural ways to practice. So in this podcast, I'm going to walk you through daily routines in detail. We'll start from the moment the alarm clock rings in the morning, and we'll go all the way until bedtime. I'll describe actions, thoughts, feelings, little rituals, and even cultural differences. And I won't just stop at one routine. I'll give you variations. Routines for students, professionals, parents, and even people who travel often. By the end, you'll not only have a full picture of how to talk about your daily routine in English, but also, hopefully, a new appreciation for your own habits. So grab your coffee, your tea, or just settle into a comfortable spot. This is going to be a long and relaxing journey together. Let's begin. The first moment of the day is always the hardest, or the most beautiful, depending on how you look at it. For many of us, it starts with the sound of an alarm. Maybe it's the shrill ringing of a phone alarm. Maybe it's a gentle melody. Some people even prefer the old-fashioned alarm clocks with the two bells on top. Personally, I've always found mornings to be a little tricky. That first moment when your body wants to stay curled under the blanket, but your brain knows you need to get up, is a universal experience. So, how do we talk about waking up in English? You might say, I wake up at 7 o'clock. I usually get out of bed at 6:30. I like to snooze my alarm a few times before I finally get up. Now, notice there's a difference between waking up and getting up. You wake up when you open your eyes and become conscious. You get up when you actually move out of bed. For some people, those moments are the same. For others, there might be 10 or 20 minutes of scrolling through their phone in between. I think it's interesting how people around the world wake up differently. In some cultures, mornings are slow and peaceful, starting with quiet prayer, meditation, or stretching. In others, mornings are fast-paced, with people rushing to shower, dress, and head out the door. For me, and for many learners practicing English, describing the morning routine can be a great exercise. You might say, when I wake up, I usually check my messages, but I try not to spend too much time on my phone. Then I sit up, stretch, and slowly walk to the bathroom. These sentences might sound simple, but they help you practice verbs, time expressions, and sequencing. After waking up, most of us go straight to the bathroom, and here's where the daily routine gets really universal: brushing teeth, washing face, taking a shower. These actions are so ordinary that we sometimes forget how much vocabulary they give us. You can say, I brush my teeth with toothpaste and a toothbrush. I rinse my mouth with water. I wash my face with soap. I take a shower every morning. I like to use cold water to wake myself up. Some people are very strict about their hygiene routines. They floss every day, use mouthwash, and apply face cream. Others are more relaxed. And that's okay because routines are personal. What's important is being able to describe them clearly. Here's an example in a more natural, storytelling way. After getting out of bed, I walk to the bathroom and brush my teeth. I always use mint-flavored toothpaste because it makes me feel fresh. Then I splash some cold water on my face to wake myself up. If I have time, I take a quick shower. But if I'm in a hurry, I just wash my face and get dressed. Notice how adding little details makes the description more realistic. The toothpaste flavor, the temperature of the water, the choice between showering and just washing up, these are the things that make your story sound alive. Now, let's move to one of my favorite parts of the morning, breakfast. People often say breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Whether you believe that or not, it's definitely a moment that can set the tone for your morning. In English, you can describe your breakfast routine like this. I usually have a cup of coffee and some toast. I eat eggs and fruit for breakfast. Sometimes I skip breakfast when I'm in a rush. But let's expand that into a longer description. After I shower and get dressed, I go to the kitchen to make breakfast. On weekdays, I usually eat something quick, like cereal with milk or a slice of bread with butter. I also drink a cup of black coffee because I can't start my day without caffeine. On weekends, I like to take my time and prepare a bigger breakfast, maybe pancakes, scrambled eggs, or even noodles, depending on what I'm craving. See how this paints a picture? Suddenly, you're not just listing food items, you're sharing part of your life. I think food is a wonderful topic to connect with other people. If you tell someone, in my country, people eat rice and vegetables for breakfast, you're not only practicing English, you're also sharing culture. And that's the beauty of daily routines. They're simple, but they open the door to meaningful conversations. After breakfast, most people need to get ready to leave the house. This means choosing clothes, checking the weather, maybe packing a bag. You might say, I put on my work clothes. I check the weather forecast to decide what to wear. I usually wear something comfortable. I pack my bag with my laptop and documents. Here's a fuller example. Once I finish breakfast, I go back to my room and decide what to wear. If it's a work day, I usually choose formal clothes, a shirt, trousers, and sometimes a jacket. If it's the weekend, I prefer casual clothes, like a t-shirt and jeans. Before leaving, I always check my bag to make sure I have my wallet, keys, and phone. For many people, commuting is a huge part of the daily routine. Some walk, some take buses, others drive cars, ride bikes, or even catch trains. You can describe commuting like this. I take the bus to work. I usually walk because my office is close. I drive to school every day. A longer version might be, my office is about 30 minutes from my house. I usually take the subway because it's fast and convenient. On the way, I like to listen to podcasts or music. Sometimes I read a book, but usually I just watch the people around me. The train is often crowded, but I don't mind. It's part of the daily routine. Notice again how these small details, listening to music, watching people, crowded trains, make the routine sound alive and relatable. Now, let's imagine you've arrived at your workplace or school. This is where the day really begins. For most of us, this part of the routine takes up the biggest chunk of time, whether it's hours spent at a desk, in classrooms, in meetings, or doing physical labor. How do you describe this in English? Well, you might say, I arrive at work at 9 o'clock. I usually start my classes at 8 in the morning. When I get to the office, I check my emails first. Here's a fuller example. As soon as I finish breakfast, I go back to my room and decide what to wear. If it's a work day, I usually choose formal clothes, a shirt, trousers, and sometimes a jacket. If it's the weekend, I prefer casual clothes, like a t-shirt and jeans. Before leaving, I always check my bag to make sure I have my wallet, keys, and phone. For many people, commuting is a huge part of the daily routine. Some walk, some take buses, others drive cars, ride bikes, or even catch trains. You can describe commuting like this. I take the bus to work. I usually walk because my office is close. I drive to school every day. A longer version might be, my office is about 30 minutes from my house. I usually take the subway because it's fast and convenient. On the way, I like to listen to podcasts or music. Sometimes I read a book, but usually I just watch the people around me. The train is often crowded, but I don't mind. It's part of the daily routine. Notice again how these small details, listening to music, watching people, crowded trains, make the routine sound alive and relatable. Now, let's imagine you've arrived at your workplace or school. This is where the day really begins. For most of us, this part of the routine takes up the biggest chunk of time, whether it's hours spent at a desk, in classrooms, in meetings, or doing physical labor. How do you describe this in English? Well, you might say, I arrive at work at 9 o'clock. I usually start my classes at 8 in the morning. When I get to the office, I check my emails first. Here's how I might expand it into a fuller, more natural story. As soon as I arrive at work, I greet my colleagues and sit at my desk. The first thing I usually do is turn on my computer and check my emails. Sometimes there are urgent messages waiting, and sometimes it's just the usual updates. After that, I make a to-do list for the day. Writing down my tasks helps me stay focused and organized. Notice that this routine is very typical for office workers, but it can be easily adapted. For example, if you're a student, you could say, when I arrive at school, I meet my friends in the hallway. We usually chat for a few minutes before the first class begins. Then I head to my classroom, take out my books, and get ready for the lesson. Every job and every field of study has its own kind of tasks, but the language for describing them can be quite universal. For example, I check my emails, I attend meetings, I make phone calls, I work on a project, I study mathematics, I take notes during class. Here's a more narrative version for a worker. In the morning, I usually focus on my most important tasks. I find that I have more energy at the start of the day, so I try to work on projects that require concentration. If I have meetings, they're usually scheduled in the morning. I also reply to emails and messages so that people know I am available and working. And for a student, it could sound like this. My first class of the day is usually English. I listen to the teacher carefully and try to take good notes. Sometimes we have group activities where we practice speaking with classmates. After that, I might have science or history. I try to stay focused, but honestly, sometimes it's hard to keep my attention all morning. That's why I always look forward to the break. Speaking of breaks, let's not forget one of the most important parts of the routine, the coffee or tea break. This might sound like a small thing, but in many workplaces and schools, the short break is essential. It's a chance to rest, refresh, and socialize. You could describe it like this. At around 10:30, I take a short break. I usually drink tea and have a small snack. I chat with my colleagues during the break. Or, in a more detailed story, at mid-morning, usually around 10:30, I take a coffee break. I go to the kitchen area with my coworkers, and we pour ourselves cups of coffee or tea. Sometimes we also have biscuits or fruit. This break is not just about the drink. It's about the conversation. We talk about work, but also about life, about the weather, or even about TV shows we're watching. It's a simple but important part of the routine. For students, it could sound like this. At school, we have a break between classes. During this time, I usually go outside with my friends. We buy snacks from the canteen, maybe chips or fruit juice. We laugh, play games, and talk about everything except homework. This break always feels too short, but it gives us energy for the rest of the morning. After the break, people usually return to their main tasks. For workers, this might mean I continue working on my projects. I attend meetings with my team. I write reports and send emails. For students, it could be I attend more classes. I work on assignments. I listen to lectures. Here's a longer example for a worker. After the coffee break, I return to my desk and continue with my work. This part of the day can be challenging because the initial energy of the morning starts to fade. For those who work night shifts, afternoons are often a time for rest. For example, if I work in a hospital or at a factory overnight, my schedule is reversed. I wake up around noon, have my first meal in the afternoon, and prepare for my night work. I might spend some time with family before leaving, but I also try to take a short nap so I won't be too tired at night. It's not easy to live on this schedule because the world around me is awake in the day, but I have to sleep when others are active. Still, it becomes part of the routine. Not all afternoons are spent in work or school. Sometimes we use the time to run errands, small but important tasks like shopping, going to the bank, or paying bills. In the afternoon, I sometimes run errands. I might go to the supermarket to buy groceries or stop by the pharmacy to pick up medicine. These are small tasks, but they keep daily life running smoothly. If I'm not working that day, afternoons are the best time to do errands because the shops are open and less crowded than in the evenings. For some people, afternoons are also a time for hobbies. In the afternoon, if I finish my work early, I like to spend time on my hobbies. Sometimes I read a book, sometimes I play the guitar, and sometimes I go for a run. These activities refresh my mind and give me energy. I believe hobbies are an important part of the daily routine because they make life more enjoyable. Without hobbies, the day feels like only work and responsibilities. When students return home from school in the afternoon, the routine changes again. After school, I arrive home and have a snack. I usually eat some fruit, biscuits, or something my parents prepared. Then I start doing my homework. If I have a lot of assignments, I try to finish them before dinner. Sometimes I study with friends, either in person or online. Other times, I take a short nap because school is exhausting. The afternoon is also when I might play games or watch videos, but my parents remind me to finish studying first. The afternoon gradually fades. The sun begins to set, and the rhythm of the day changes. For many people, the evening is a time of transition. It's the moment when the responsibilities of work or study begin to slow down, and personal life takes center stage. In English, you might describe this transition by saying, I usually finish work around 6 o'clock in the evening, or school ends at 4 o'clock and then I go home. Or when I finish my tasks, I prepare to relax. This shift from professional or academic life to personal life is an important part of the daily routine, and it looks different for everyone. For workers, I usually finish work around 6 o'clock. Before leaving, I check my emails one last time and make a list of tasks for the next day. This helps me clear my mind and not worry about work after I leave the office. Then I pack my things, say goodbye to my colleagues, and head home. For students, school usually ends in the late afternoon around 4 o'clock. I pack my books, say goodbye to my friends, and walk or take the bus home. Sometimes I stop at a shop on the way to buy a snack. I always feel happy when school is over because it means I can relax and spend time with family. The evening commute is often different from the morning. People are tired, but also relieved that the day's responsibilities are over. I take the bus home after work. In the morning, the bus is full of people rushing, but in the evening, the atmosphere is calmer. I often listen to music or podcasts while I ride. Sometimes I just look out the window and enjoy the view of the sunset. The ride feels longer in the evening because I'm already tired, but I don't mind. It's a chance to slow down. For students, when I go home from school, I sometimes walk with friends. We talk about the day, laugh, and share jokes. Walking home feels lighter than walking to school because the pressure of the day is gone. Sometimes I stop by a small shop to buy ice cream or juice before going home. There's a special feeling about arriving home in the evening. It's a moment of comfort, putting down your bag, taking off your shoes, and finally feeling free. When I arrive home, the first thing I do is wash my hands and change into comfortable clothes. I like to wear something soft and cozy, like pajamas or a t-shirt. Then I usually sit down for a few minutes to rest. Sometimes I scroll through my phone. Sometimes I talk with family members. Arriving home always feels like a little victory after a long day. Dinner is one of the most important moments of the evening routine. It's not only about eating, it's about gathering, sharing, and connecting. You might describe it like this: I usually eat dinner at 7 o'clock. We eat together as a family. Sometimes I cook and sometimes we order food. Here's a fuller version. In the evening, around 7 o'clock, I usually have dinner. If I cook, I prepare simple meals like rice with vegetables, pasta, or soup. Cooking helps me relax after work. Other times, I order food from a restaurant when I don't feel like cooking. Dinner is also the time when I talk with my family. We sit together at the table, eat, and share stories about our day. This routine helps us stay connected. For students, at home, dinner is served around 8 o'clock. My parents usually cook, and we all sit together. Sometimes we have traditional dishes, and sometimes we eat simple food like bread and eggs. Dinner is my favorite time because the whole family is together and I don't have to think about schoolwork for a while. After dinner, the evening becomes a time for rest and entertainment. This part of the routine is very personal. Everyone relaxes in their own way. Some common ways to describe this: I watch TV in the evening. I spend time on my phone. I read a book. I go for a run after dinner. A fuller example: after dinner, I usually spend some time relaxing. Sometimes I watch TV shows or movies. Other times I read a book or listen to music. If the weather is nice, I like to take a short walk outside. The evening is also when I call my friends or family members who live far away. It's a quiet and personal part of my routine when I can finally do what I enjoy. For parents and children, evenings often mean family bonding. As a parent, evenings are busy but also joyful. After dinner, I help my children with their homework. We sit at the table together and I guide them with their studies. Then we play a little, maybe board games or drawing. Then later we watch a short TV show together. These small routines bring us closer as a family. For children or teenagers, in the evening I sometimes sit with my parents in the living room. We watch the news or a movie together. My siblings and I sometimes play video games or listen to music. Even if we're tired, the evening is when we feel closest as a family. Evenings are also the perfect time for personal projects. In the evening, I often work on my hobbies. Sometimes I write in my journal, sometimes I paint, and sometimes I practice a musical instrument. These activities make me feel creative and happy. They're different from my job, so they help me feel balanced. For people who are learning English, evenings are a great time to study. You can review vocabulary, watch an English show, or even listen to a podcast like this one. Not every evening is spent at home. Some evenings are social. On weekends, I sometimes go out with friends in the evening. We meet at a cafe, have dinner together, or go to the cinema. Sometimes we just walk around the city and talk. Social evenings make life exciting, but they also make the routine feel less strict. I believe it's important to have a balance. Some evenings for rest, and some evenings for socializing. Travelers experience evenings differently depending on where they are. When I travel, my evening routine changes completely. If I'm in a new city, I spend the evening exploring, walking through the streets, trying local food, or visiting a market. Dinner becomes an adventure because I want to taste new dishes. I might return to my hotel late, feeling tired but happy. Travel evenings are unpredictable, but they're always memorable. As the evening winds down, the day enters its final chapter, night. This is the time when the world becomes quieter, the streets empty, and people prepare to rest. But before we sleep, there are small rituals, habits that help us close the day in peace. In English, you might describe this shift by saying, "At night, I usually prepare for bed," or "Before sleeping, I like to relax with a book." Thank you for listening to today's episode of the English Exchange Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Don't forget, everyday routines are a great way to practice English. Until next time, keep learning, keep practicing, and keep growing with us here on the English Exchange Podcast.